Now, if you come from a poor background, this is what I want you to do immediately after watching this video. What do I mean by coming from a poor background? I mean you've come from an unfortunate background whereby, hey, you didn't have all the things that a common kid would love to get in terms of when they are growing up and something of sort. How many of you here never bounced on the bouncing castle? But some of you don't even know what's that. How many of you actually grew up in a life whereby your parents used to take you somewhere where you can do the bouncing castle, you ride on the horses and all those kind of you? Me too, I never grew up in those kind of things. And maybe perhaps when we take our kids to those places, we feel like we can even jump into that thing and enjoy our lives. But anyway, it is what it is. Now, that's what I'm talking about. If you come from that background, you feel like you've missed a lot of things, and usually, bring up your kids with this kind of, I don't want to call it bitterness, but sort of an anger or something, be like, I'm not going to bring my kid the way I was brought up and all those kind of things. And guess what? Now, it's you who I'm talking about. If you're that kind of an individual, that's the video for you. And after watching this video, I want you to do immediately what I'm going to discuss on this video. By the way, guess what? I'm sharing this information with you for free. All right? And the only thing that I need from you, or I want from you, or request from you, is to hit that like button, smash it, okay? Make sure that you as well subscribe. There's a small button written subscribe down below, then it's in black. Okay, fine. After you do that, let's get into the business now. What are you supposed to do? Before I even tell you what you're supposed to do, let me tell you the consequences that you're about to suffer. Statistics, they have it. People who are born from the poor background, chances are they might actually remain the same state. Have you ever heard of something called the generational poverty? It is true, because you people, you do not have something that can actually kickstart you and or sort of catapult you so that at least you can do something with regard to the finances and growth. So they say statistically these guys, and if they get an opportunity, let's say maybe you get something like a windfall money, you tend to squander it and go back to the same situation. Now, today I'm going to discuss with you 5 things that you're supposed to do or not supposed to do at the same time. What do I mean? Like when I tell you what not to do, obviously I share with you in place of that what you're supposed to do. All right. The very first point, there is something called what we call the break the yoke of commonality. Break the yoke of commonality. What does it mean? Have you ever been in a situation, for example, for those who are watching my videos, have you ever tried to go back to your up country? In Kenya, we call it Ushago. Ushago simply means you go back. See, there are cities and there are up countries. So have you ever tried to go back to the up countries and you find those people, what they usually do? You find like there is common thing they do. You can even predict what they do. If it's a season for planting, they do the planting. If the season for there is a certain sort of a common thing or comfort zone or something of sort. The only thing that you're supposed to do for you to actually break out of that yoke is to break the yoke of commonality. The break of commonality is when, hey, guess what? This is what we do. This is what, it's no longer about we do. It's about I do, I'm supposed to do, you do, I do. You get what I'm saying? Because some of us, if you decide to go ahead and remain in that kind of a lifestyle, you're going to get yourself a lot of poverty things coming along your way. For example, I had a client who called me. He had a problem with 95,000, and he was getting 32,000 as a salary. And I did ask the person, okay, we actually checked all the areas of what you're supposed to do to pay back the loan. And I realized the guy had some, I don't know, it was 4 kettles and some goats and whatever. So, but you have a lot of herds. You can actually sell several of them. Then get yourself out of a thing. And he was like, no, in my culture, we don't sell our cows. We don't sell. Then I was like, damn, I wouldn't even wish to have those cows if you cannot even sell them. What am I there for? If they cannot even help to get out of the poverty, get out of the, what we call the yoke of the bondage of what we call the loans and debts and what have you. So make sure that you break the yoke of commonality. Otherwise, if you don't break this yoke of commonality, you're going to still end up with the same result as you actually running away from. This yoke of commonality is what I've seen a lot of people suffering from. You work with people who are the same problem. You live in the same area. People are suffering from the same problem. You don't even get out of the place and go to a different place and all those kind of things. So break the yoke of commonality. Let's go to the more practical thing, the second one. The second one is none other than you having what? Do not buy that thing called, do not buy an advice from the people who are suffering from the same problem. Try to minimize. I'm about to say don't buy, but let me say minimize, okay? Minimize taking advice from such people, because honestly speaking, there is no way you can talk with someone who is not successful and they're telling you how to be successful. Then they have never used that example. There's such kind of a thing. So at least when I talk about the MMF here, I must have invested to that thing so that at least you may be able to relate with what I'm talking about. Okay. Now the point is this. Sometimes I even tell people this one. I know it may sound hard and harsh, but the reality is sometimes avoid taking financial advice from your parents. True, because sometimes if you take the advice from the parents, they might actually relate to what was happening in a couple of years ago, it is no longer workable. It's no longer viable right now as we speak. So try to minimize that, getting those advices and incorporating them. But when I say minimize them, I'm not saying that whenever they tell you do this, hey, no, don't tell me nothing. Good Joseph said we shouldn't listen to. No, I'm not saying that. See, you're not supposed to be wise. They are our parents, they are our people, they are our elders, they are our neighbors, they are what have you. Just listen to them. See, when you listen to them, they interpret that as respect, and at the same time, hey, I ain't gonna do that thing, because if you're telling me to do, unless they're telling you what not to do, that ended up them in the situation that they are in, that's what you can take it. But when it comes to money and finances, investment and what have you, try to minimize the advice that you're getting from those specific areas, or otherwise that can actually get yourself into lots of problems. Okay, now let's go to the next point. The next point is draw a line between your family, draw a line between the family you create and the family you left. All right, see, now this is where a lot of people tend then to get their problems. Okay, now draw a line. Okay, draw a line, and then this line is actually the family you create and the family you come from. Okay, see, there are two families here. There's where you are born from, and there is a family that now you've created, assuming that maybe even when you are alone by yourself, you are the family to yourself. When you have your wife and your kids, or you have your husband and kids, that is exactly a family that you have. It's always good to make sure that you draw a line. For God's sake, I know you have that bitterness deep inside of you. You are saying, hey, I ain't gonna bring up my kids in the situation that I was brought up, and I'm gonna try the best that I can to make sure that at least I give them a better life. And at the same time, if you have all those trailing things that are at the behind of your back without you drawing, and let me tell you one thing, some of these decisions are very tough. They require a very tough mind. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you feel like the rich people are usually mean and frugal and sometimes rude or something, or arrogant? Some of them, they're not even arrogant. They know if they were to be a little bit, what do we call it, less tricky, friendly or something of, so they can be taken advantage of. I am telling you the truth. The number of calls that I do receive, especially from our beautiful ladies from Gulf, they tell me, hey, guess what, Joseph? My contract is about to end. This is actually my second year. Actually, this is my second contract. My first contract of 2 years. I actually supported all the family members, and I'm telling you, they drain me like nobody's business. I do not even have anything to do. I do not have any sort of investments with me or any savings with me. Even if I was to show up in Kenya today, even if I was deported just in case of anything, I do not have anything that I can be able to invest out there. I was educating my brothers, I was educating my sisters, I'm still educating who, I'm supporting my parents, I'm doing this, I've built them a home. All those things are not bad. They're okay, they are great. But what you fail is to differentiate the family that you create and the family that you came from. That's for sure. Okay? Now, the point is this: you are supposed to understand this. There is a you alive and they alive. You are supposed to help them. But the reality is, as much as you are helping them, it's also make sure to draw a line, to draw a boundary, so that at least you can as well help yourself at the same time. You might be shocked. And by the way, for those who have ever gone through this experience can attest. You will be shocked one day when you show up back home, you've been supporting them with all the money that you've been making, you show back home with nothing, and then you'll be laughing at you. The same people you've been helping, they'll be laughing back at you, and they're telling you, hey, you're not even smart, you're even dumb, you got the opportunity. If I was you, I got the... They forgot that the money that you actually used to make, you are supporting them. And this problem is actually very much common with the firstborns, especially if you're a firstborn and you're watching my videos here and you're not smart, you might actually get yourself into problem. Sometimes, you know what I usually say, and this one is a bit tough. Sometimes I usually say this: it's rather I actually tighten my nut a little bit. You'd rather, you guys, you're my brothers, you're my sister, yes, but let me just tighten up my nut a little bit. Let me look as if I'm stingy, I'm frugal, and what have you, so that at least I can be somewhere. Because there is something, for God's sake, there is something we are trying to beat, so that at least you beat the thing, and once you beat the thing, then you can turn around and try to cross them to your end. But the moment you try, you're barely even the other side of the other side of success, and you're trying to cross them. And by the time you realize that specific thing that you're actually using to cross has actually broken, and all of you are back to square zero. That's the reality. Some of the things people are supposed to stretch a little bit for them to cater by themselves. So the thing is this: it's always good to make sure that you draw a line between the family that you create and the family that you left behind. Okay? And if you have to help them, so there are some of the influences that you cannot be able to shake them off. And if you cannot be able to shake them off, then try to have their budget within your budget. That's the reality. Rather than operating on a freestyle. Sometimes I ask you, how much do you usually send home as a blacklist, a black tax? You don't even know how much. You're supposed to track that amount of money so that at least you know things to do with investments. I feel like I spend a little bit of time here because I have seen people doing this. Most of the people usually are affected by these three things. Number one, you do not even break the yoke of commonality. You still do the same thing and expecting a different result. Nothing will ever change without you doing. See, success is being uncomfortable. If you are comfortable, you'll never get many new things. You have to be uncomfortable. Number two is when you actually take everything that you get from your people. You cannot do this. We don't do this. We have never done this. Nobody has ever done this in our family, and all those kind of things. You can't. I remember back then I used to be told, hey, you can't even go to university. Nobody has ever done. I was the first person to go to university, not only from my nuclear family, but the extended family. All of them. Nobody has ever done that. I was the first one to do that for the glory of God, and I'm saying that for the glory of God. Now, the third one is about drawing a line between that thing called, hey, guess what? It is called, between the family you create and the family that you have. Now, let's go to the third one, the fourth one rather. Now, the fourth one is none other than having what? Do not escape or disregard or ignore. Do not escape what we call the financial talk, the hard, actually I should call it, don't escape the hard financial conversation. And I'm telling you, I know things to do with money is an emotive issue. And a emotive issue is in the sense that, hey, when the moment is actually talked about, you feel like that bitterness, you feel like rage and all those kind of things, usually develop that defense mechanism and what have you. Let me tell you one secret. Just like an iron sharpens another iron, so do we learn from each other. What you're supposed to do in life, you're supposed to, at all the time and every time, make sure that at least you listen to people who know something that you do not know. For God's sake, there's something that you do not know and someone else knows. And I know this is a problem with men. Most of the men feel like we know everything. No, we do not. Just learn to know when you're a teacher and when you're a student. When you're a student, please apply 2 years and 1 month. When you are a teacher, then you can talk. There is no problem. So the point is this. For example, such channels when talks are, see, let me tell you one secret. The moment you realize there is a problem with your cash, try to follow things that are talking about money, how to invest, how to grow, how to manage, how to go about all those kind of things, okay? Align yourself with the things that you are shortcut. You have what we call, you're running short of. Align yourself towards that area, okay? Maybe let's say you are a teacher. Usually dwell most to what you usually do each and every day because you want to sharpen your skills. For example, what kind of a content do you think I usually consume? Because I do consume. I consume them on various social media, be it either on TikTok, be it either on Facebook, be it either on YouTube channel and what have you. What kind of a content do you think I consume? Can you imagine this? I usually make content about finances and what have you, and then I am watching things to do with very funny things. They're not even related to this. How do you think I'm gonna sharpen my mind? And everything that we say, with some of them we invent and some of them we listen and try to make sure that we better them. Because in future, people will come, we'll talk about finances, because I ain't gonna talk about these finances like forever and ever and ever. No, someone else will come, will take over, they'll actually go ahead and pick it up from there, That's what we do and transform and change our world and making it a better place. So the thing is this, if you know you have a problem with budgeting, align yourself with strategic people who knows some things, one or two, as far as the finances are concerned. And I told you one thing, if you're above 30 years and you're telling me you have 4 friends, you have a problem. You ain't supposed to have all those kind of guys you're calling them friends. You're supposed to have strategic people who can help you in one way or the other. You have someone who about finances. You have someone about religion. Or rather, I don't like talking about religion. I love talking about spirituality and faith and such kind of a thing. So if you have someone for anything and everything in your life, and that way you can be able to grow and move to the next level. And the last one, but not the least, avoid what we call the crowd thinking. Avoid what we call the crowd thinking. Do you know what is crowd thinking? Okay, crowd thinking is, for example, you can relate this to when you are in the campus or high school. You remember when a teacher will show up with returning your papers, maybe it was chemistry or whatever the subject it was, and then he said or she says that almost everyone failed this paper, or everyone failed, nobody actually scored. Let's say it was a cut and a continuous assessment test, and then nobody actually scored even 20 marks. And then you are there laughing, you got your 02, 03, 05 and what have you. Because everyone failed, now you'd be like, at least everyone failed. That's the reality. It does not happen that way. Ask yourself, there's someone else, maybe not from this school, someone else actually passed. And how exactly did they do that? And this is what people usually suffer when they're in campus. You're out there, you are with people when you're striking, you think it's fun, you think life is fun, you think it is a joke, having the crowd thinking. And then when you graduate, you actually look around and see all your friends are not employed, you feel good, it's not only you justify yourself with that. You're supposed to be stressed. You ask yourself, Yes, some of my friends are not employed, but there are some who are maybe from a different university are employed, or someone is doing something. I've actually managed to do things. Someone has an MMF, someone has a business somewhere. How are they doing it? And yet you're complaining. You're supposed to not avoid what we call the crowd thinking. When you avoid the crowd thinking, that's the time now you start to realize the greatness and change in your life. But now if you approach life with this understanding and mentality of, oh, it is not me alone, we are a majority of us and what have you, you do not justify yourself with that. Be disturbed. And I've said success is actually being uncomfortable. If you want to be successful in life, you have to be uncomfortable. And that is the only way you achieve greatness as far as the life is concerned. And guess what? That marks the end of my video. But you can always pick the number of mine from the description of this specific video. And let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And for now, it's a goodbye. Make sure that you like the video. Tell me on the comment section, did you get value for this video or that for that time of yours? See you in the next one.